Sybil was the most evil lord in the entire game world. He not only kidnapped and taunted the Saintess with his third leg, but also enslaved the elf tribes. In the end, he was hung to death by a group of players. Even after his death, someone came along and cut off his third leg. Ordinary people, faced with such a tragic fate, would try to escape death if they had the chance. But Sybil? He didn't just avoid doing good, he went out of his way to commit even greater evils. As it turned out, he had transmigrated into the game world and become the most hated lord simply because of his cruelty. That's why he ended up with such a miserable ending. So when the villain system appeared, he was absolutely terrified. He flatly refused to be bound by it. From then on, he swore, couldn't he become the kindest lord in the world instead? But the system immediately objected. The host cannot alter the world trajectory. The host can only increase strength through this system by pushing the wheel of fate forward and escaping death. Hearing that, Sybil's face turned pale. Fine, bind me then. The system cheerfully chimed. Binding successful. Strongest villain system. With arms crossed, Sybil solemnly listened as the system explained the rules. The host must complete a series of villainous plot missions, such as humiliating the Saintess, slaughtering players, collecting demi-human slave girls. Upon completion, rewards and ability draws will be unlocked. Hearing this, Sybil blushed with excitement just imagining it. A grin appeared on his face. They really won't let me be a good person. Huh? Forcing me down the path of villainy. Then he suddenly realized something was wrong. He glared at the system and shouted, if I follow all those immoral quests from the last overlord, won't I die even faster? The system's voice echoed coldly like a warning. If the host refuses the missions, no rewards will be granted. The system has calculated 3 future endings for you. The more Sybil listened, the more stunned he became. Ending 1. Physically castrated by other players. Ending 2. Forced to become a loli. Ending 3. Host dies. System reassigns number. Sybil immediately exploded, furiously pointing at the system. System, are you trolling me? Inside a lavish chamber, Sybil stepped out with a tired face and muttered, let's go. Kremen responded respectfully. Yes, my lord. The main avenue was crowded with people, the atmosphere growing more and more festive. Both sides of the road were abuzz with chatter. That's him, the newly appointed lord, a young boy exclaimed with excitement. Whoa, so many iron-wrapped monsters. The woman beside him frowned and corrected him. Brat, those are knights, not monsters. A girl standing by the road gazed dreamily at Sybil. Lord Sybil is so handsome. I really want to share a spring breeze moment with him. The boy saw Sybil's expression and commented, but he doesn't look very happy. Sybil shot him a look and snapped. How about we switch? You take this damn lordship. Standing high above the cheering crowd shouting, long live the lord. Sybil eventually made his way back and collapsed onto his bed. All that for an inauguration? So over the top. Finally, some rest. Suddenly, the system popped up and slammed into him, startling Sybil, now announcing daily villain missions. Sybil turned and yelled in frustration. You damn ghost system, always appearing out of nowhere. The system calmly continued. Villain Mission 1. Steal candy from a child. Villain Mission 2. Trample a villager's vegetable garden. Villain Mission 3. Publicly beat a civilian. Sybil scoffed. You call these villain missions? I look more like a street thug than a noble lord. The system carried on undisturbed. These are beginner missions. They will not be this easy in the future. Friendly reminder. Completing one mission grants a reward draw. Completing all 3 grants a chance at a critical reward. It is recommended that the host complete all missions first before drawing. Sybil crossed his arms, considering. There's a reward. Huh? Alright, fine. He pointed at the system with mock threat. Let me tell you, I'm just giving you some face. Not because I want your junk. Then he barked. And another thing. Stop scaring people by popping up like that. Lucky I have nerves of steel. What if someone fainted? The system replied in a monotone voice. This system is exclusive to the host. Only you can see or hear me. Then with a tone that sounded oddly sarcastic. Friendly reminder. In the future, please speak to me mentally. No need to shout. Kremen was outside polishing his sword at the sword castle when he noticed something. Sybil approached, looked back at him and commanded. Come, join your lord for a patrol. The squad quickly charged forward. Sybil ran ahead with a mischievous grin, leaving the knights behind speechless. A young boy pointed at him and shouted, I remember you. You're the new lord. Sybil stopped, grinning slyly. Oh, since you know I'm the lord, doesn't that mean everyone has to listen to me? He leaned down with a smile and extended his hand. Well then, little one, can I have that lollipop in your hand? The boy panicked, hiding it behind his back. No. Sybil bared his teeth and growled playfully. Give it to me. The boy burst into tears. The lord is stealing my candy. Sybil quickly tried to save face. Don't cry, don't cry, give me one and I'll give you two back. Deal? Just then, the system chimed in. Don't think this system is stupid. Host. Sybil frowned. TCH. So that won't work either. He stepped forward, snatched the candy, and the boy immediately wailed louder. Lord Sybil brought iron monsters to bully children. Sybil turned to the knights and ordered, "Take him away." As he munched the candy, he grumbled inwardly, "These stupid missions, why does this feel more humiliating than flirting with demi-human girls?" Elsewhere, a farmer looked at his field with satisfaction. Looks like a good harvest this year. Then he saw Sybil leading knights straight into his crops. The knights stomped through madly. The farmer screamed, "Please, good knights, stop." One confused soldier muttered, "Captain, what's gotten into Lord Sybil today?" Kremen sighed, "Don't ask me, I don't know either." Sybil turned around and tossed some gold coins at the farmer. "We're done, fall back." As they left, he chuckled to himself, "Stupid system, still full of loopholes. I paid him in secret, you got nothing on me now." Riding his horse through the city streets, Sybil pondered, "The first two are done. Now for the third, beating a civilian, but I can't just beat up an innocent person. Can I?" Soon, he arrived at a wide plaza. A man stood in the center, shouting boldly to the crowd, "Top-grade female demi-human slaves. Great prices, first come, first served." The plaza was filling with more and more people. Sybil watched with amusement. Well, a poor sucker offering himself on a silver platter. The sharp snap of a whip echoed through the square. Beside him, Kremen eagerly addressed the crowd. "By the latest decree of Lord Sybil, from this day forward, humans and demi-humans must live together in peace. The illegal trade of demi-humans is officially banned in Lindong City." The female demi-human slaves gasped, overwhelmed with emotion. "Our new lord is truly compassionate and noble. Someone this good becoming our lord, it's a blessing to all demi-humans." Lori, watching from the side, turned and sighed quietly. The crowd erupted in cheers. Lord Sybil, so cool, so handsome. Back in his room, Sybil closed the door behind him with a stony face. Then he ripped off his cloak, tossed it aside, and called out with barely contained excitement, "System, I want my reward." At his command, the system materialized with a glowing spin wheel. Daily villain missions confirmed complete. Beginning reward draw. The wheel began spinning rapidly. After a moment, it slowed, then stopped. "Congratulations, host, you have received the perfect solution, Dragon Shatterer, heavy form. You now have 3 critical chances. First critical hit successful. Congratulations, host has obtained hero-grade equipment, Holy Knight's Triumph Armor." Sybil wriggled excitedly. "A hero-grade crit? System, you're a legend." He immediately started putting the armor on. His body was soon fully clad in shining steel plates. Standing before the mirror, he beamed, "Gotta take a look at this masterpiece." At the training ground, Kremen was polishing a sword when Sybil arrived. Kremen looked up, surprised. "Young Master Sybil, you came to see me?" Sybil grinned confidently. "Kremen, I just got this awesome new armor. Want to try a match?" Kremen stood up and gave Sybil a respectful nod, eyes scanning the armor. "This armor isn't just decent, it's brilliant. Truly magnificent." They both took their positions for combat. "If that's the case," Kremen said, bowing slightly, "allow me to help you test it properly." Sybil returned the bow. Suddenly, Kremen charged like lightning. Sybil's eyes widened. So fast. He quickly gathered himself and met the blow with full force. As expected from a Grand Knight, their blades clashed fiercely. Kremen was knocked back, sliding before regaining his footing. He looked up and said with a hint of pride, "You've improved, young master." Sybil's eyes lit up. Again, Kremen launched another strike. Sybil dodged swiftly. The two continued exchanging blows furiously. They fought on, from sunset to late into the night, before finally calling for a break. Breathing heavily, Kremen glanced at Sybil and praised, "Combined with your power, this new armor gives top-class defense." Sybil laughed happily but scratched his head. "You were holding back, admit it." Nearby, the female demi-human slaves were watching in awe and admiration. "Lord Sybil is amazing, the strongest ever." Sybil stood proudly in the training yard and shouted, "Come on, bring it on, all of you weaklings." He laughed heartily, chest puffed in pride, until he woke up, still grinning. "Ha, weaklings? It was all just a dream." Back in the real world, Sybil lay inside a gaming pod. In front of him, a trailer for Kane Continent Online was playing. Suddenly, his body jolted, his eyes flew open wide. He sat up, panting and glancing around. "That sensation again, like someone's watching me. Nah, must be my imagination." Suddenly, the system's voice popped up. "Player is approaching Shen Guang Town." Its sudden announcement made Sybil scream. "What the F?" Then, narrowing his eyes, he muttered, "Wait, Shen Guang Town? After clicking the enter button, everything went white, and then came the explosion. A massive blast erupted across a whole other world. In that moment, a black dragon was blasting flames directly at Malorn, cracking her divine shield. Though her shield was on the verge of breaking, Malorn still stood tall and declared, "God of war and flame. Waging war against lesser deities is a violation of divine order. I, Malorn, wild goddess of the lower pantheon." Her words were cut short as the shield finally shattered. The flaming god lunged forward and seized her in one swift motion. "Order?" he growled. "Order exists only for the weak." Then, with brutal force, he crushed her with his bare hands. That god was Barda, the flame dragon, mid-tier god of war and flame. Malorn's body was engulfed in fire. "I will return," she whispered. But Barda mercilessly squeezed until her form disintegrated into sparks. Just as the flame dragon exhaled slowly, a voice rang out from the void. "Return? For what purpose? Your godhood has already been shattered. The demi-human race you protected will perish in the end." Somewhere in the city, a glowing green crystal was being handed over. "Young man," a voice said as the crystal was offered to Yi Hao. "Take this. With it, you'll gain the power to summon heroic spirits. Lead them, and liberate the demi-humans from endless oppression." Yi Hao stared blankly and pointed to himself. "You sure you've got the right guy?" Elsewhere, Sybil was watching the screen unfold. He sighed deeply. "Sigh, this is why you should never skip story scenes when you first start a game. Now I only remember scattered fragments like this." Kremen, sensing something odd, turned to him. "Young Master Sybil, is something wrong?" Sybil replied vaguely. "I'm fine, just curious." He stared at the screen, falling into thought. So after the wild goddess lost her godhood, her remaining power condensed into a mysterious crystal, which was then handed to the game's protagonist by some unknown figure. That crystal is essentially the login key, and the spirits the protagonist summons using that crystal are us, the players. He pointed to the map on the screen, thinking, back then, as a player, I didn't think much of it. But now? This world clearly isn't just some game. So, is it possible this entire story was real all along? A chilling thought struck him. If I was summoned here, then which god summoned me? And did that god also send this system? What does he want from me? He muttered aloud, half mocking himself. Me? Being used as a chess piece by some deity? What an honor. Kremen, still beside him, tilted his head in confusion. Young Master Sybil, forgive me for asking, but why are you up so early today? And why ride all the way to Shenguang town? Out on the border of Shangyingling? Sybil gave one answer but thought another. Of course it's to stay alive. I just wanted to observe my territory. He said aloud, an unannounced inspection. Shenguang town is the furthest out. Figured I'd start there. Kremen nodded with approval. Young master, your dedication is admirable. Surely your people will feel blessed by your care. Then, with a curious expression, he added, just don't be too surprised when you get there. Huh? What's that supposed to mean? Sybil asked. A surprise? In Shenguang town, Sybil finally arrived. He stared at the barren place and muttered. So this shabby dump is Shenguang town? What was the previous lord even doing? Even if the land's infertile and far from the capital, this place still shouldn't look like a complete garbage pit. Kremen chuckled bitterly. Young master, the previous lord was Count Kalante of the Ironwall family. He was a devout follower of Barda the Flame Dragon. He spent all his time launching wars, completely neglecting civil affairs. Sybil's face twisted in shock. Kalante? Wait, you mean that chubby old guy who was always laughing like a maniac? Kremen hesitated, then nodded. Yes, that's him. He added. Back then, the size of the Shangying territory didn't even require a griffin to travel across. The land was smaller. Sybil grumbled in annoyance. So now I'm supposed to thank him for leaving me an expanded trash heap? Just then, shouting broke his thoughts. Beat it to death. Beat the filthy thing to death. Sybil turned toward the alley where the noise came from. He saw a group of children yelling and surrounding a girl with animal ears. Filthy demi-human scum. Where's your brother? Huh? Bring him out. You and that brother of yours should just disappear. They were beating her, mercilessly. At that moment, in a narrow alleyway, angry voices echoed. Beat her to death. A group of children was ruthlessly beating a young demi-human girl. From a short distance away, two others stood watching. The saintess turned her face away, clearly unable to bear the sight. She muttered under her breath. Disgusting? Yi Hao quickly reached out to stop her. Let go of me, she snapped. He warned her. If you act now, you'll blow your cover. But she'll die if we don't help, the saintess said through gritted teeth. Yi Hao stood firm. No buts. We can't interfere yet. Once the heroic spirit is fully condensed, we can rescue every demi-human in this town. Or do you only want to save just this one? The saintess hesitated, her face darkening. She looked back at the children with conflicted eyes. Just then, a voice cut through the chaos. "What do you think you're doing? Stop that immediately." The children froze. The one who had spoken, none other than Sybil. He walked up with a cold, authoritative glare and without hesitation, smacked one of the boys right on the backside. "You little brat," Sybil growled, "still wet behind the ears and already bullying others? If you've got energy, go run laps or dig trenches." The boy wailed in pain, tears flowing instantly. The nearby townsfolk, witnessing this, felt a strange sense of satisfaction. On the other side, Yi Hao turned to the saintess. "Let's go. Disperse the energy, you're drawing attention. The heroic spirit is still waiting." Meanwhile, Sybil calmly picked up the beaten demi-human girl in his arms and walked past Yi Hao's group. Suddenly, the system's voice echoed in his mind. Detected proximity to key player. Temporary system upgrade successful. Would you like to check new functions? Sybil's eyes lit up. Huh? This cheap system has upgrades? Check immediately, he ordered. Congratulations, host. You've unlocked information visualization mode. Sybil stared at his system screen. So I can now see people's info? Correct, the system replied. Host can view full information on targets of equal or lower level, and partial data on higher tier targets. Suddenly, Sybil's own status window popped up. Name, Sybil. Title, Lord of Shan Ying Lane. Count, current state, publicly famous. Fame trend, rising up arrow. He smirked. Didn't think I'd be famous. That little arrow must mean it's still climbing. Then he glanced over at the man next to him. As his gaze fell upon the figure, data began to materialize. Name, Kremen. Role, personal guard of the Count. Class, Earth Knight. Level 49. Fame in the Empire of Kaala, 13.721, respected. Reputation with demi-human factions, 1, barely known. Seeing that number, Sybil stiffened. Whoa, Kremen's reputation score is even higher than mine. It felt like a bucket of cold water had been dumped over his head. Truly impressive, Kremen. After placing the young demi-human girl gently onto a nearby bench, Sybil asked the system, "That's it? Just this one feature from the upgrade?" Congratulations, host, the system intoned. You've also unlocked Fate Burden Collection mode. Every time the host escapes a fatal ending, a fate shackle from that timeline will be retrieved and bound to you. And you must now humiliate demi-human Saintess Rui. Sybil's expression twisted instantly. Wait, what the hell is a fate shackle? In year 92, Sybil's eyes lit up as he stared at the system panel and muttered. So, all I have to do is survive 5 deadly crises. And I can personally carry Yi Hao out of here? The system immediately began explaining new behavioral rules for the host. Rule 1. Host must not directly attack the protagonist, Yi Hao. Since Yi Hao is the child of fate, he is protected by the world's narrative law. A premature attack may expose the host's identity, shift target attention onto the host, and collapse world progression. Rule 2. Host is permitted to attack players in order to increase survivability. The host is advised to actively suppress the growth of other players. Rule 3. Within the constraints of Rule 1, the host retains full autonomy and may act freely. Sybil raised an eyebrow. Oh, huh, he smirked. Honestly, aside from Rule 1, the other two basically unshackle me. As a proper villain, killing off the main character during his tutorial arc is just uncivilized. Narrowing his eyes thoughtfully, he continued. So, the first major story arc has now unlocked. Host can review the plot via the system anytime. If I remember correctly, he mused, the next part should go like this. He began piecing the narrative together. The Saintess's group gets surrounded. With help from Yi Hao and the heroic spirits, she begins rescuing wandering demi-humans near the border. During one rescue, the summoned spirits accidentally alert the garrison of Shenguang town. The town guards try to seize the demi-human Saintess to offer her to the local lord. This leads to a fight between the guards and Yi Hao's group. Eventually, the heroic spirits overwhelm the guards, and Yi Hao takes control of Shenguang, establishing a foothold in the borderlands of the Count's territory. Sybil's lips curled into a cunning smile. Oh, you're planning to stir trouble right under my nose? Sure, I can't touch the protagonist. But it never said I couldn't mess with the players. Outside the town hall, 2 figures approached. A town guard stepped forward. Halt, who goes there? His eyes locked onto the golden lion medallion on Sybil's chest and immediately paled. Are you from the Empire? A noble? A lord? He dropped to his knees. Esteemed sir, I am Goodbye, captain of the Shenguang town guard. Please tell me how I may serve you. Sybil blinked. Goodbye? What a name. He recalled the guy from the game. Ah yes, this guy had 2 skills. One was some kind of party combo skill. The other was a ridiculous fear-inducing passive. Still, in my last playthrough, he ended up dying at the hands of the players, triggering the mini-boss event, the town chief of Shenguang, Miguel. Sybil crossed his arms. Summon your town chief. Now. Goodbye scratched his head nervously. The chief is, occupied. Shall I go fetch him? Sybil stepped forward without hesitation. No need. I'll meet him myself. Inside the town chief's chamber, McGill was lounging comfortably with two ladies in his arms, thoroughly enjoying himself. Bang! The door slammed open with a violent kick. McGill's face turned red with fury. Who dares interrupt me? Can't you see your town chief is? But then he froze. His knees hit the floor. Tears streamed down his face as he bowed low. Why, young master? Oh, exalted Lord Sybil. I prayed day and night for the goddess of luck to send you here. And now you've truly graced us. If only you'd sent word ahead, I could have welcomed you properly. Sybil frowned in disgust. Pathetic. This clown has 2 basic knight skills and dares call himself a boss? At that moment, McGill's info panel popped up. Name: McGill. Title: Shenguang Town Chief. Class: Knight. Level 11. Skills: Cavalry Charge. Piercing Thrust. Reputation with demi-human factions. 37. Extremely hated. Notable trait: despised by most demi-humans. Sybil squinted. Even your stats suck. Then he asked coldly, any recent disturbances in Shenguang? McGill brightened immediately. None at all, my lord. Everything's been peaceful. Sybil smiled faintly. Then he roared. Bullshit. Demi-humans have already infiltrated deep into your district and you don't even notice? If that's the case, then you're no longer the town chief. From this moment forward, I'll take over this role. You will act as captain of the guard. And you will remain here. Only when you prove you understand this territory, then I might restore your position. From within the castle echoed the pitiful cries of McGill. My lord, this really isn't appropriate, please. Wait. He chased after Sybil, who ignored him entirely, striding straight out the door. You, get back there and stand guard like I told you. Sybil snapped coldly. There's trouble in the town. As captain of the town guard, you should be doing your damn job. Goodbye. Standing nearby, blinked in confusion. But I am the town guard captain. Then, another man grabbed Sybil's leg and pleaded. My lord, please, this really isn't appropriate. Sybil was stunned for a moment. Goodbye then asked, if he's the guard captain, then what's my job supposed to be? Sybil, brimming with generosity, declared, you'll be my personal bodyguard. Double the salary. Instantly, Goodbye's expression lit up. Yes, Count and Town Chief. Sir. McGill's face turned purple with rage, nearly spitting blood on the spot. Sybil turned, mounted his horse, and gently lifted the demi-human girl, Lori, into his arms. Goodbye, he ordered. Prepare a clean room for her, preferably with a large, soft bed. Yes, my lord. Goodbye replied dutifully. Count and Town Chief. Sir. McGill watched the whole thing, fuming. TCH, all because I didn't prepare a bribe in time? So that brat likes demi-humans. Huh? Pretending to be so noble and righteous with me. But he's the same as everyone else. His eyes fell on Lori, still in Sybil's arms. So that's your taste, We'll see about that. Turning to his lackeys, McGill barked. Go find me a few pretty demi-human slave girls. Bring them to the town hall. Understood, Captain, they responded. The title stung. Captain. It was like salt on an open wound. His eyes burned with resentment. Just wait, it won't be long before I take that town chief title back. Meanwhile, Sybil returned to the room and gently laid Lori down on the bed. He rubbed his chin thoughtfully. If I'm not mistaken, she's a squirrel type. Huh? A gleam appeared in his eyes as he reached out. That tail must feel amazing to touch. And those ears, they twitch. But just as he was about to reach further, his hand froze. The girl had apparently woken up at some point. Before he could say anything, Lori suddenly screamed. She sat up on the bed, teary-eyed. I'm sorry, my lord, I didn't mean to dirty your bedsheets. Then she slid off the bed and fell to her knees. Please, don't kill Lori. Sybil raised his hands awkwardly. Hey, stand up already. But seeing how terrified she looked, he didn't know what else to say. I saved you, he explained. Why would I kill you? Try to remember, he added. You fainted after being attacked by those kids. I beat them up and brought you here. Lori blinked, then murmured. Lori remembers now, but Lori didn't faint from being hit. She glanced at Sybil, face flushed. Lori fainted because she was hungry. As if on cue, her stomach growled loudly. Moments later, food was brought in. Lori devoured the meal, cheeks stuffed, and mumbled, Noble lord, Lori doesn't know how to repay your kindness. Sybil smiled kindly. Finish eating first, we'll talk later. Just then, the system dinged in his mind. Warning. Host's current actions deviate from expected villain behavior. Cease immediately or face punishment. But Sybil had long figured out a loophole in the rules. He responded smugly. Now, system bro, I can feed her whatever I want, but let's be clear. I saved this girl not out of compassion, but to raise her into my pawn. My death soldier. A blade hidden in my sleeve to stab the protagonist and players in the back when it matters most. The system went silent. Then it began analyzing the plausibility of this logic. Moments later, it responded. Validated. No further warnings issued. Sybil grinned slyly. Stupid system. Lucky I caught your fatal weakness early. As long as I justify my behavior properly, you can't touch me. Now then, time for the slave uprising arc. Suddenly, the system rang out again. Daily villain missions. Inflict psychological trauma on 10 players. Force Lori to give a shoulder massage and warm the bed. Humiliate the protagonist Yi Hao. Sybil froze. Reward. Critical hit chance. Completing one mission grants a reward. Completing more unlocks new daily missions. Host, keep up the good work. At that moment, Sybil slammed his hand down on the table. Hard. Across from him, Lori was happily munching on a chicken drumstick. The sound startled her, she froze. The drumstick halfway to her mouth. She looked at him, then shyly stepped forward and offered her food. Noble lord, please, you can have this. Her eyes showed a hint of reluctance. Sybil rubbed his forehead and forced himself to calm down. I didn't slam the table because I wanted your food. And also, stop calling me, noble lord. I'm the Count of Shang Ying Ling. The name's Sybil Jin Shi. Suddenly, his expression changed, eyes narrowing like a wolf eyeing its prey. He leaned in toward the little red-hooded girl. That's right, didn't you say you wanted to repay me? Lori blinked innocently. Yes, I did. Sybil looked her up and down, then said, turns out I happen to be short on a maid. From now on, follow me. 3 meals a day, 2 days off per week. Sound good? Elsewhere, a sharp whip crack landed on the shoulder of a trembling demi-human girl. She winced in pain. The slave master of the demi-human camp laughed cruelly as he lashed the girls again and again. Their backs covered in cuts and bruises. Please, let me go, one cried. I still have a family. A child. He grinned. Then next time, we'll bring your whole family here. That way you can all reunite, right here. The girls screamed. No, please. A soldier walked over. Hurry up. The town chief wants demi-human slaves. Don't make him wait. The slave master straightened up with a greasy smile. Of course, sir. These are fresh catches. Every one of them shiny and smooth. Our town chief will love them. He lifted his whip again. Didn't you hear me? But just as it came down, a hand caught it midair. Stop, came a stern voice. It was Lin Fan, a player. You do realize human trafficking is a crime, right? The slave master scoffed. Demi-humans aren't human. What, kid, came here to cause trouble? Lin Fan winced. Damn, forgot this world isn't governed by Earth's laws. Then, without another word, he tossed a heavy pouch of gold coins. I'll buy all the slaves. Done. The slave master's eyes sparkled. He peeked inside. Gold. Oh, an honored customer. But, these girls were already reserved by Town Chief Sybil. If you want demi-humans, you'll have to wait. Lin Fan frowned. Town Chief? Wasn't that guy supposed to be McGill? Is this a game bug? The players behind him lost their patience. They drew their weapons. We tried asking nicely. Now we ask with blades. Let them go, or else. The slave master screamed and ran. Help, I'm under attack. McGill stormed onto the scene, face red with fury. I am the town chief of Shenguang, he bellowed. How dare you attack my citizens? Kneel now, or face the wrath of this land. The players panicked. Oh no. Boss encounter. Level 11 knight? We've only fought level 2s and 3s so far. We can't even see his gear, he's out of our league. They panicked. We won't last. Where's the protagonist? Someone call Yi Hao. Right on cue, like summoning Cao Cao. Yi Hao arrived. Sword raised high. He shouted. Fortify. Shield wall. Heroic spirits. Assemble. With Yi Hao at the lead, the players rallied. He's here. Go, go, go. McGill's HP bar rapidly decreased. The crowd cheered. Keep going. Interrupt his ultimate. Push him down. Loot incoming. Yi Hao suddenly leapt high into the air. With sword glowing, he shouted. Radiant cross slash. The blade cleaved the air. McGill was launched across the square. The players froze. Wait, what? NPC kill stealing the boss? Is this a broken mechanic? We were fighting him for ages, he had like 2 HP left. Now the protagonist swoops in looking all majestic? Not fair. Yi Hao simply smiled. Then, staying true to the script, he turned to the players and said, Justice shall always prevail over evil. McGill's fate was his own doing. Thank you, heroic spirits, for aiding me. The weapons, armor, And rich as he hoarded, consider them your reward. The players instantly perked up. Loot? We're in. Quick, get to the town hall, first come, first serve. They rushed to the town hall. But a figure stood blocking the gate. That figure was none other than the new town chief, Sybil. They stopped, confused. Who's this guy? There's still someone here? Sybil looked down at them with a smirk. You hurt my guards, killed my men, and now you want to rob me too? You've acted lawlessly in my territory long enough. His voice dropped cold. Don't you think you've gotten a bit too bold? The players looked at Sybil, utterly confused. Who the hell is this guy? Why is there still a fight? Lin Fan casually raised his hand. Who cares? Use identify skill. The system screen popped up. Target identified. Lord of Xiangyang. Sybil Jin Shi. Class: Earth Knight. Level 44. Threat level: Nightmare. A beat passed, then everyone collectively freaked out. What? Someone groaned. Why is the Lord of Xiangyang showing up here? Shouldn't he be over in Lindong village or something? Nightmare level? Is this game built with feet or what? This is a newbie town. We're level 2 fighting a level 44 boss? How is this balanced? A love-struck girl nearby blushed. Well, for what it's worth, he is really handsome. Someone else muttered. Guys, are we seriously commenting on his looks right now? The players turned toward Yi Hao, their eyes gleaming. If we take him down, imagine the loot. Yi Hao began sweating bullets. Why are you all looking at me like that? He sighed and stepped forward. Lord of Xiangyang, he called out. Sybil turned his gaze toward him. Yi Hao walked up with righteous flair. I am Yi Hao. The players watching from behind grinned. It's starting, the main storyline. Yi Hao continued confidently. You may not know me now, but I promise, you'll never forget my name. He drew his weapon. You'll also remember the great mission I carry on my shoulders. Sybil raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. Level 11? TCH. If the system wasn't restraining me, I'd be tearing through to the final act by now. Still, he decided to play along. Sybil unsheathed his sword in one swift motion. I am Sybil Jin Shi, Lord of Xiangyang. Intruders, you've overstepped your bounds. The crowd around them gasped. Then Sybil struck. You will pay dearly for your ignorance. From his sword burst forth a massive golden lion, roaring into the air. Yi Hao's eyes widened. No, my divine shield can't hold much longer. So this is the power of level 44? The next moment, a system message popped up for all players. You're dead. After the dust settled, Sybil exhaled slowly. The ground now had a 10-meter wide, 1-meter deep crater. That's a big enough psychological shadow on the player base. Right? All across the battlefield, players groaned. What just happened? One bang and I was gone. Wasn't this part of the main story? Why did the NPC suddenly massacre everyone? I was outside the damage radius. Why did I still die? I only had 250 HP. That wasn't even a critical hit. Where's the protagonist? Is Yi Hao dead too? But Yi Hao had narrowly evaded the strike and crouched behind a ledge. Sweating. Damn it, the story was supposed to end with defeating McGill. Not some overpowered lord showing up. He stepped out, eyes sharp. You, Lord of Xiangyang, are you the one who enslaved demi-humans for your personal pleasure? Sybil furrowed his brow and snapped. Excuse me? When did I ever enslave demi-humans? And since when was this for my pleasure? But Yi Hao shouted without hesitation. Prepare to face the judgment of justice. Then he activated a bug, and his level suddenly surged, temporary level 45. Sybil blinked, surprised. Well, you leveled up? Not bad. So this is the chosen one of fate. Huh? A sudden boost beyond my level. If this were the old, kidney-failing lord of the previous timeline, he'd have dropped to his knees by now. Yi Hao's eyes lit with determination. Sybil Jin Shi, I'll show you what true power looks like. You're still far from that. Sybil muttered, and began to activate his skill. Suddenly, a system alert rang in his mind. Warning. Host is attempting a lethal action against the child of fate. Cease immediately or face penalty. Sybil froze, stunned, and that's when Yi Hao charged forward. Blades glowing, as he unleashed his ultimate, light domain burst. Sybil was forcefully locked by the system and had no choice but to take the hit. He was sent flying backward, sword digging into the dirt as he tried to halt his slide. On one knee, he spat blood and hissed. Damn it. At that moment, Sybil was launched a dozen meters back by Yi Hao's strike. The pain was real, but the humiliation? Tenfold worse. Why? Because once again, the players had gathered like vultures, ready to spectate the drama. Holy crap, Yi Hao's winning. He's holding the upper hand. No wonder he's the protagonist. Told you guys. No way would the game throw a final boss right at the start. A girl off to the side sighed dreamily. And he's so handsome with that sword. Sybil, still crouched where he landed, offered a helpless smile. These players, seriously, no filter at all. If they knew this was a real world, I doubt they'd be laughing so loudly. Yi Hao rushed in again, but this time, Sybil didn't just stand there. The system won't let me touch Yi Hao? Fine, someone else can. Sybil casually called out. Kremen. Like a flash, Kremen appeared and intercepted Yi Hao's attack. Meanwhile, Sybil stood behind him, making faces. Come hit me, dumbass. Yi Hao was stunned. His body stiffened. Wait, wasn't this supposed to be a solo boss battle? Where'd this guy come from? The players who had been cheering Yi Hao moments ago were now dead silent. One girl who had previously praised Yi Hao's looks muttered. Whoa, that guy's level 49. He's stronger than the Lord of Xiangying. Another player added grimly. We had a chance against one. But two? This is suicide. Yi Hao gritted his teeth and defended against Kremen's attacks. Barely holding on, he glanced toward Sybil and sneered. So this is your idea of a knight's code? What a disgrace. Sybil chuckled. Knight's code? What's that? I am, first and foremost, a lord, second, a count, lastly, maybe, a knight. Tell me, when have you ever seen a noble personally take up arms against riffraff? He jabbed a finger straight at Yi Hao's face. You're not even worth it. And so, the old but still formidable Kremen charged into battle once more, because fate had placed him at the service of a thoroughly chaotic young master. Sybil pointed forward. Kremen, finish him. Yi Hao was completely overwhelmed. Speed, strength, he's in another league. So this is the power of an Earth Knight. A punch from Kremen sent Yi Hao flying. Sybil strolled over leisurely and placed a boot on Yi Hao's chest. Smiling victoriously, Yi Hao, defiant to the end, gasped. You can't kill me? Sybil grinned. Who said anything about killing you? He yanked Yi Hao up by the collar. The protagonist stared at him, confused. Then, whack, a slap echoed across the battlefield. The players collectively turned to stone. Sybil raised his hand again. Yi Hao, right? Wanted me to remember your name? Wanted me to understand what true power is? Slap, slap, slap. Each sentence punctuated by a resounding slap. Eventually, Yi Hao collapsed, bruised, broken, and unable to move. Sybil dusted his hands off. I'm in a generous mood today, so I'll let you keep your dog life. Want revenge? I'll be waiting. Yi Hao's face was so swollen even his own mother wouldn't recognize him. He coughed weakly. With that, Sybil and Kremen walked away, calm and composed. The surrounding players instinctively parted, clearing a path for them. Once they were gone, the players huddled together. So, our protagonist is just some weed-tier peasant rising up? I thought he was born to be op. Maybe it's not that the main character is weak, maybe the enemy is just too strong. They looked at each other blankly. So, what now? Mission complete? Guess so. I mean, the Lord didn't take the demi-human slaves. With everything handled, Sybil could finally relax as he made his return. This time, he wasn't alone. Lori, the demi-human girl, was riding with him. It was her first time aboard a griffin-drawn carriage, and she looked visibly tense and wide-eyed. Noticing her reaction, Sybil thought she might be reluctant to leave her hometown. Lori, what's wrong? He asked. Are you not ready to say goodbye? But her response caught him off guard and left him silent for a few seconds. No, that's not it, Lord Sybil, she said softly. Ever since my brother died, this is the first time I've traveled far on my own, so I'm just a little nervous. Sybil gently patted her head. Sorry about that. Then he offered a reassuring smile. I may not be able to change the conflict between humans and demi-humans just yet. But as long as I'm still here, no one in Xiangying will dare lay a hand on you. At that moment, something stirred in Lori's small heart. Lord Sybil, she whispered. It was the first time anyone had treated her so kindly. She blushed and thought to herself. He's so gentle. Before long, the griffin-drawn carriage landed gracefully outside the palace. Kremen announced, We've arrived, young Master Sybil. Lori's eyes sparkled with awe. She looked around eagerly. It's so beautiful. The palace is 100 times more beautiful than that McGill guy's estate. She could hardly believe she was going to live in such a luxurious place. Lord Sybil, are you really letting me become your personal maid? She asked timidly. Sybil stood proudly, hands on his hips. Exactly. Your job's basically to help manage my daily needs. We've been on this griffin carriage all afternoon. How is she still doubting it? Seeing how nervous she looked, he reassured her again. You don't have to worry. I'm not like those other stuck-up nobles. I don't really bother with rigid formalities. He added, as for what a personal maid actually does, don't worry. Chris will teach you everything in a few days. She's very enthusiastic. As if summoned by name, Chris came charging in out of nowhere. Young master. She completely ignored protocol and threw herself at Sybil, hugging him tight. My dear little Sybil, you've grown up so fast. Her chest was generously endowed, and Sybil could barely breathe. Can't breathe, he gasped. He squirmed free. Weren't you supposed to arrive in a few days? Chris grinned. When I heard you were promoted to Lord, I figured you'd need me sooner rather than later. Then she teased him with a wink. I rushed over so you wouldn't end up begging for milk like you did when you were little. Chris had once been both his maid and his wet nurse. Sybil turned red as a beet. Stop, Chris, don't bring up stuff from when I was a baby. Chris giggled, covering her mouth. Ah, young master's embarrassed. How adorable Tilda. Still as intense as ever. This woman hasn't changed one bit. To shift the atmosphere, he quickly changed the subject. Anyway, Chris, this is Lori. Starting today, she'll be my personal maid. Please show her around and teach her the ropes. Chris eyed the petite demi-human girl with a mix of curiosity and concern. Personal maid? Really? Sensing her doubt, Sybil leaned in and explained in a low voice. I brought her back from Shenguang town. When I found her, she was nearly beaten to death by a group of children. So, please go easy on her. Alright? I'm sure you understand what I mean. Chris nodded solemnly. Don't worry, young master. I understand. She looked at Lori again and smiled warmly. You've grown up a lot, young master. And she really is a lovely little demi-human. Chris crouched down so she was eye level with Lori, gently patting her head. I'll make sure to teach you everything you need. Properly. In Shenguang town, Deep Hao still couldn't swallow his rage, especially with all the other players gossiping relentlessly about how badly he'd been beaten. His face swollen beyond recognition. On the forums, threads were blowing up. Shocking. The main character Deep Hao is actually the illegitimate son of the villain. Could it be that Deep Hao and the Lord of Xiangyang have a love-hate bloodline rivalry? The real protagonist is actually Lord Sybil Kim-soo? Deep Hao saw those posts and nearly shattered his teeth in anger. His face contorted viciously, and he slammed his fist onto the table. In my past life, I was a martial arts genius of an ancient clan. In this life, I'm the destined hero meant to overthrow tyranny. I am the real protagonist. The more he thought about it, the more his fury burned. His future sight ability had never been wrong. Events had always played out just as he foresaw. He clenched his fists until they trembled. Damn it, it's all because of him. His appearance knocked everything off track, turned me into a joke in front of all the players. Each word came from his gritted teeth like a curse. Lord of Xiangyang, one day, I will tear you to pieces. Meanwhile, in Dom Lam village, Sybil was enjoying a quiet meal in his palace when suddenly he shivered from head to toe. Brr, what the hell? Why does it suddenly feel like I just got hit with a wave of evil intent? Just then, a knight entered and bowed. Lord Sybil, I bring my report. Seeing the knight had returned alone, Sybil frowned. What about the priest? Did you bring one back? Previously, Sybil had instructed his men to bring back a few priests with healing abilities. However, not a single priest had agreed to return with them. The knight hesitated. Lord Sybil, the priests at the temple refused to provide healing. The head bishop even said. Sybil cut him off sharply. Said what? The knight wiped sweat from his brow. He said, you must have gone mad to ask the divine shepherds of the gods to heal a demi-human. Something lower than a commoner. The hand holding Sybil's fork paused mid-cut. That clearly ticked him off. I've only just taken office. And they already dared disobey my command? Do they think I'm not worth respecting as their lord? Looks like the temple's grown far too bold lately. The knight tried to soothe him. Please, Lord Sybil, don't be angry. But Sybil slammed his hands down and stood up, shouting, to hell with that, they don't want to heal? Fine. Go find Kremen. Have him lead the cavalry to surround the temple. I'll head there myself shortly. Yes, my lord, the knight answered, dashing off. Sybil's rage was burning fiercely, until Lori appeared. She had changed into a maid uniform. Approaching shyly. Lord Sybil, she called out gently. Sybil turned and froze. Why is she so cute? It was dangerously adorable, almost illegal levels of cute. Seeing his stunned expression, Lori became anxious. Lord Sybil, do I look weird in this outfit? Lady Chris told me to wear it. Sybil quickly patted her head and reassured her. No, it suits you perfectly. Then he turned toward Chris and said, I have some matters to deal with now. Chris chuckled and winked. Don't worry, Lord Sybil, when you come home tonight, you'll have a sweet and obedient little maid waiting for you, Tilda. Before he left, Sybil handed Lori a small vial of precious-looking medicine. Remember to drink this later. Okay? Lori looked closely at the sparkling red potion in her hand. She hadn't even figured out what it was when Chris leaned in and whispered into her ear. Little Lori, looks like Lord Sybil really likes you, Tilda. Lori didn't quite understand what kind of like Chris was referring to. But just hearing her say that made the girl's cheeks flush red. That's impossible. Miss Chris, please don't tease me. Chris chuckled. Tilda, I'm not joking at all. And she wasn't. There was good reason behind her words. She went on to explain. The potion in your hand is life essence. Drawn from the spring of life in the elven royal court, incredibly rare. It's the only effective healing liquid on the Kane continent, but its true power is far greater. It extends life, heals internal injuries, and is something you couldn't buy even if you were filthy rich. Lori's eyes grew wider and wider in shock as she tightened her grip on the vial. Then Chris casually added, "My 13th husband proposed to me with one of those. That's why I said yes." Lori was even more stunned by that than by the potion itself. 13th husband? She looks so young though. Meanwhile, at the temple, Sybil had already brought his knights to surround the place. As soon as High Priest Marlton saw him appear, his face darkened with fury. "Lord Sybil, are you planning to slaughter the shepherds of the divine right here before the gods?" This Marlton, formerly a level 38 archmage, an expert in advanced fire magic, held two powerful skills: divine summon sacrifice, sacred healing. He was the only high priest in all of Xiangyang territory, and quite well known. But his hands were also stained with the blood of countless demi-humans. Sybil, of course, saw straight through him and scoffed provocatively. "No matter how you look at it, the divine light clearly never shines on scum like you, High Priest Marlton." Just as he said that, a sudden flash of power whipped past his shoulder. Though it didn't injure him, it knocked the golden lion sigil from his chest, sending it clattering to the ground, a blatant insult to his title. Sybil's eyes narrowed. He quickly identified the true culprit, a hidden figure behind Marlton. Name: Carter. Class: Holy Templar Knight. Rank: Earth Knight LV, 44, same level as Sybil. So that's it. The priests dared to defy me because they had a Holy Templar guarding them. Sybil grinned, excited, one hand already reaching for his sword. Holy Templar Knights, the hidden fist of the church. Few in number, shrouded in mystery, but incredibly powerful. Every one of them is at least Earth Knight level. How interesting. He unsheathed his sword and declared, "High Priest Marlton, you, a mere priest, dare defy a lord's decree and even insult me as a madman? By imperial law, I have every right to execute you here and now. Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Sybil's voice was sharp and unwavering. But Marlton only sneered in reply. So the famed lord of Xiangyang would command his loyal servants to waste their divine grace healing a filthy demi-human? Even if you stood before his majesty the king himself, I'm sure he wouldn't approve. Sybil wasn't surprised. He had never expected words alone to shake this kind of zealot. Fine then, he thought. In that case, this whole damned temple has no reason to exist anymore. The tip of Sybil's sword ignited, bursting into golden lion flame, and he was ready to throw down. He turned to Kremen and calmly instructed, "That guy in the black cloak's yours. I'll handle the priest myself." Then he shouted to his troops, "All knights, kill every last one of them. Leave no survivors." With that, Sybil charged straight into the fray. At the very moment Sybil launched his attack, Carter also charged forward, but he had long since fallen into Kremen's sights. "You who hide behind a cloak, your opponent is me," Kremen declared. On the other side, Marlton took a direct sword strike from Sybil. "Without the backing of the Holy Order, let's see how long you can keep that arrogant mouth of yours." Sybil sneered. Though Marlton was level 38, he couldn't withstand even a single blow. Sybil openly mocked him, just a straw dummy. Marlton was sent flying backward, badly wounded. Sybil felt that with one more strike, no skill needed, he could send this man to the afterlife. But even while on the losing side, Marlton's mouth didn't quit. "Lord of Xiangyang, you dare oppress the loyal servants of my god. Our Grand Bishop won't let you get away with this." Sybil sighed irritably. "Always, your god, this. Your god, that. Well then, why don't you call your god to come save you now?" Though his sword was already pressing at Marlton's neck, the old man remained defiant. "You will suffer the wrath of our lord." "Oh yeah?" Sybil mocked. "This Lord Count will be waiting for it." Then, in a stunning act, Marlton grabbed the blade himself and drove it into his own chest. Even in his final breath, he muttered, "My merciful God." Sybil, startled, realized something was off. The old man continued murmuring, "Your humble servant, Marlton, relinquishes his weak soul and becomes a stepping stone for your divine power." His words didn't seem like idle mumbling, but rather an incantation or a curse. Even Sybil, holding the hilt, could feel a heavy pressure. As Marlton's final words echoed, his body vanished, transforming into crimson flame. That flame engulfed Sybil completely, and the oppressive force made it nearly impossible to move. In that terrifying moment, Sybil realized, this was the will of Badal the Flame Dragon. God of war and fire, he had actually been summoned. This was completely beyond Sybil's expectations. Things had gone very wrong. Sybil suddenly coughed up blood. "Damn it," he muttered. His body wouldn't budge. Desperately, he tried calling out to Kremen, but the old knight was also locked in combat with Carter. What was even more bizarre, Despite being a level 49 Earth Knight, Kremen was being steadily pushed back by the level 44 Carter. Carter smirked coldly. "You overestimate yourself." With a final slash, Carter sent Kremen flying. He couldn't even help Sybil now. Sybil, unable to save himself, was overwhelmed. What is going on? He thought. That black-robed guy is clearly a lower level than Kremen. How is he winning? All the while, the crimson flame of the flame dragon wrapped around Sybil tighter and tighter. Each second drained more of his life. Blood poured from his nose and mouth. His mind blanked. Am I really going to die here, in this cursed chapel? He thought. At the moment when Sybil's body was writhing in its worst agony, he suddenly felt a cool, refreshing energy pour into him. Sybil was stunned. What is this? The oppressive force vanished, the searing pain faded, and even his wounds began to heal. Although he didn't know what it was, the power boost it gave him was undeniable. A victorious smile crept onto Sybil's lips. So I really am under divine protection. Huh? He turned his gaze toward Kremen, who was still struggling against the Holy Knight. Kremen attacked relentlessly, but every strike failed to land. In disbelief, the old knight muttered, How is this possible? None of my blows connect? Carter, on the other hand, was clearly enjoying the upper hand against one of the Empire's most renowned Earth Knights. He laughed mockingly. Ha ha ha, old man, is that all you got? Then, raising his sword, he shouted, Then go to hell. He swung his blade with murderous intent, a strike that Kremen would likely not survive. But heaven never forsakes the righteous. Carter's finishing blow was deflected by Sybil. Carter didn't need to look to know who that blinding golden slash belonged to. He sighed and grumbled, so that useless trash Marlton really is dead. Typical. All bark and no bite. What a waste. And to think the Holy Pontiff trusted him with such an important task. Barely escaping death, Kremen breathed a heavy sigh of relief. Young master, I'm sorry, I was too weak. But Sybil didn't blame him. Don't be so hard on yourself, Kremen, he said calmly, because he had noticed something strange about this Holy Knight. This one's different, Sybil thought. He's been modified. He doesn't feel pain. He's nothing but a pitiful killing machine created by the church, a thing that can't even be called human. Carter, exposed, didn't show shame. On the contrary, he found it amusing. He chuckled. Interesting, very interesting. So this brat knows quite a bit about the church's secrets. At that moment, the eyes beneath Carter's hood were revealed, blood red and glowing. Too bad, the more you know, the sooner you'll die. As he spoke, Carter's body began to change, so drastically that both Sybil and Kremen were left speechless. In the blink of an eye, the man who had just been standing there turned into a giant wolf. A werewolf? Kremen gasped in disbelief. Sybil, seeing this, smirked in mockery of the church. So it turns out the Church of Badal is even more deranged in modifying holy knights than we imagined. Using his identification skill, Sybil quickly analyzed Carter's new form. A wave of relief crossed his mind. It's just a temporary buff, which means, it's time-limited. He immediately shared this discovery with Kremen. Kremen, his berserk form is temporary. If we hold him off long enough, we can win this. As he spoke, Sybil gripped his sword tightly. He was ready to unleash his full strength against this half-man, half-wolf abomination. Outside the walls of Lindong Town, Sybil was locked in fierce combat with a massive werewolf beastman. The creature smashed its fist into the ground, but Sybil dodged and leapt high into the air. Then, gripping his sword, which radiated golden killing intent, he plunged down toward the beastman. He charged forward using his skill, courageous assault. But the werewolf beastman managed to raise his arm in time to block it. Sybil smirked with confidence. Without pause, he unleashed his next technique, Dragon Core Claw Guard. The beastman noticed something from behind. Kremen was rushing in with a sword, attacking from his blind spot. Assaulted from two sides, the beastman snarled in fury. Disgusting vermin, he thought to himself. I can't delay this any longer. The longer I maintain berserk mode, the more it drains my life force. As he braced himself, red bloodlust erupted from around his body. He slashed at Sybil, sending him flying with a roar of, die. Then he kicked Kremen straight into a wall. The impact so fast and brutal it knocked the old knight unconscious amidst the rubble. The werewolf turned with seething bloodlust to face Sybil, who was sitting on the ground. He strode over, grabbed Sybil by the neck, and hoisted him into the air, choking him as Sybil struggled. Originally, I was going to hand you over to His Holiness the Pope. The beastman sneered, but now I've changed my mind. Sybil clenched his teeth, glaring at him as he began to open his jaws wide. I'm going to eat you alive, he growled. Sybil's expression shifted to calm indifference. Then suddenly, he lashed out with a punch, slamming his fist into the werewolf's face and blasting him away. The beastman crashed into the ground, his berserk power vanishing in an instant. Sybil stood firm and said coolly, well, Let's see if you're still hungry." Stunned, the werewolf roared in disbelief. "How can this be? My berserk power, gone." As he lay on the ground, Sybil stepped on his chest with disdain and said, "Crushed." Then, wearing a mocking smile, he added, "What I used wasn't Dragon Core Claw Guard. It was a time-locking barrier. You broke it yourself, don't blame me." Hearing this, the beastman roared and lunged back up, sending Sybil flying again. Despicable. Sybil didn't care. He raised his sword and swung, so fast the beastman couldn't react. The blade sliced cleanly through the creature's neck. As the head fell, Sybil calmly looked at the corpse and said, "For fanatics like you, the only way to make you behave is to cut off your heads." Then, resting his chin on the hilt of his sword, he puffed out his cheeks and sighed. Phew, finally done. Suddenly, he remembered, Kremen, he's still buried. Sybil rushed to where his soldiers were already pulling Kremen from the rubble. Raising his hand, he commanded, who's around? Goodbye. Go fetch a priest to cast healing magic on Kremen." Goodbye, standing nearby, scratched his head and chuckled awkwardly. "Young master, there are no priests left in Lindong town." He pointed to a pile of headless corpses on the ground and explained. "You said to spare no one. So, we, chopped up all the priests." Sybil stared at him in disbelief, then shouted, "You've really outdone yourself." He rubbed his forehead with a sigh. "Fine, go to my room and get a vial of life elixir for Kremen." Then he gave a stern command, "Everyone else, listen up, search the cathedral ruins, anything valuable. Bring it back to me." The soldiers responded in unison. "Yes, my lord." Hands on his hips, Sybil sighed again. Lindong town is still desperately short on people. At Lindong city, Sybil pressed a hand to his lips, frowning in deep thought. "Sooner or later, I'll have to invade another territory and snatch a few priests for myself. Most of the time, they're useless freeloaders, only when something happens do they act like kings." Suddenly, a soldier rushed up in panic and reported, "My lord, we've discovered a basement." Sybil looked confused. "A basement? What's so surprising? Isn't it normal for a church to have one?" The soldier, looking troubled, responded, "Well, the situation is a bit complicated. My lord, I think it's best if you take a look yourself." A short while later, the soldier led Sybil to the door with a lantern in hand. "This way, my lord." Sybil stepped forward and opened the door. A foul, putrid stench hit him immediately, causing him to instinctively cover his nose. Peering inside, he was horrified. The basement was filled with women lying on the ground, dressed in tattered rags, their bodies reeking of decay. The soldier behind him dropped the lantern in shock and turned away to vomit violently. Unable to stomach the gruesome sight, Sybil, holding back his revulsion, stepped inside and noticed a blood-stained letter on a table. Curious, he walked over, picked it up, and opened it. It was written by Marlton, addressed to the Holy Pope of Badel. In the letter, Marlton reported that the blood extract had been fully prepared and would be delivered to the royal capital before June. Sybil's expression darkened as he finished reading. He slammed the letter onto the table in fury. Those lunatics in the church, they'd completely lost their minds. He stood silently for a moment, deep in thought. Judging from the tone of this letter, the origin of the Holy Order Knights seems to come from some kind of secretive blood ritual. The blood of demi-human girls appears to be a key component. It feels like there's a hidden hand manipulating everything from behind. Why was that previous lord so blatantly obsessed with capturing demi-human girls? Was it really just some twisted fetish? Was the enslavement of demi-humans truly his own idea? Or was there someone orchestrating it from the shadows? Did the Galone Empire attack the demi-human principality simply because a divine war broke out? After pondering it all, Sybil folded his arms and shook his head. "Never mind, let's just forget it. I haven't even figured out what's going on with the players and myself. Why waste time worrying about the Galone Empire or the demi-human kingdom?" That night in the village of Lindong, Sybil sat in his chair, glancing at the few gold coins laid out on the table, his spoils from earlier. He picked one up and sneered. "Marlton, you were a bishop of the church and this is all you had on you? 2 or 3 gold coins? What a disgrace to the Holy Church of Badel." Later, in the outer hall, he walked slowly with a yawn, rubbing his mouth. "Forget it, I'll sleep first and think later." When he entered his bedroom and looked toward the bed, he saw a lump under the blanket. "Huh? Who's there?" A sleepy mumble came from beneath the covers. Startled, Sybil rushed forward and yanked off the blanket. "Get out here." To his shock, it was Lori, fast asleep and drooling. He froze, utterly confused. "Lori, why are you here?" Still half asleep, Lori rubbed her eyes and blinked at him. "You're back, my lord." Then she sat up, still drowsy, and said softly, "Lori came to help warm your bed." Seeing Lori in a maid outfit kneeling on the bed, Sybil frowned in confusion. What is going on here? He wondered, then gave an awkward laugh. What kind of lessons is that Chris woman teaching her? When Sybil didn't say anything, Lori looked up and asked, "Master?" Sybil cleared his throat twice, ahem, then replied, massage my shoulders. I'm really tired today. Upon hearing that, Lori beamed and cheerfully replied, "Yes, master." As soon as Lori placed her hands on Sybil's shoulders, he noticed something sticking out from her tail. Surprised, Sybil asked, "What's this?" He reached out and lifted Lori's tail, and immediately a bunch of trinkets and miscellaneous items tumbled out onto the floor. "Master, no, please don't," Lori cried out in panic. Blushing, she stammered, "Those are just things I picked up." Sybil sighed. She really is a little squirrel, hiding things like this, and now she looks like she's scared I'll take her treasures away. Then a thought struck him. Oh right, that thing. Lori tilted her head in confusion. That thing? Sybil quickly tied a ribbon around Lori's waist and smiled. "Alright, this bow will be your pouch now. If you find something, just put it in here. Don't hide things in your tail anymore." Moved, Lori threw herself into Sybil's arms. "Thank you, master." Blushing, she looked up at him and said softly, "Master, it's already late. Let Lori help you sleep tonight." Sybil was speechless. He was almost certain this was something Chris had taught her. Trying to stay rational, he asked, "Lori, how old are you this year?" Upon hearing the question, Lori quickly replied, "By human standards, I'm 18. By beastkin standards, I'm 16. In Kane, beastkin are considered adults at 14. After answering, Lori blinked and asked, "Why do you ask, master?" Sybil's thoughts raced. Of age, Lori is legal. Immediately, the system notification chimed. Ting. Detected a significant increase in the host's testosterone and heart rate, predicting abnormal activity, based on recent interactions with female organisms. Target identified as personal maid Lori. Warning. Lori's physical constitution is extremely fragile. Forced abnormal activity may cause irreversible harm. Host is advised to verify the cause and increase Lori's physical resilience before proceeding. Sybil froze, stunned by the system's relentless alerts. Lori, concerned, whispered, "Master?" She wrapped her arms around Sybil, blushing, and said, The bed warming, it's not finished yet." She continued, "Miss Chris said I should hug you, and also." Sybil collapsed back onto the bed, covering his face in guilt. Hoo, I misunderstood, didn't I? Just hugging is enough for warming the bed." The next morning, with dark circles under his eyes from a sleepless night, Sybil muttered to the system, "System, I want to claim my reward." Immediately, the system responded, "Host has completed all daily missions. Dispensing reward now." Sybil sat upright in bed, ears perked. "Congratulations, host, you have received 10 Minotaur warriors. Reward will be delivered using a suitable method. Please prepare a clear open space. No critical success this time. Keep up the effort." No crit. Sybil sighed. But the next second, his face lit up with excitement. He clenched his fist and grinned. Still, even without a crit, these are Minotaurs, elite heavy infantry of the Beastkin Empire, on par with the Crusader units of the Cologne Empire. Roughly at the level of High Knights. Sybil paused, still curious. But what exactly does suitable delivery method mean? Just as he was pondering that, the room began to glow with a soft blue light. As the images within the light gradually became clearer, Sybil's eyes widened. "What is this?"